My name is Melissa D'Amico. I'm a second-year environmental studies student in the Honors Tutorial College at OU. This past summer, I was a research apprentice with Dr. DeBelco, and I was researching older adults and how they're particularly impacted by climate change. And I was researching at Age Friendly Columbus in the Blackburn Center. I started working and taking classes in environmental justice, and I was really interested in the fact that climate was going to impact certain community groups and certain groups more than it was going to impact the other groups. Specifically, we're looking at older adults and their particular vulnerability to climate change, especially when you're thinking about how climate change is going to increase the frequency and intensity of natural hazards, and older adults are particularly vulnerable to natural hazards because of decreased mobility, decreased social connections, and other things like that the Age Friendly initiative is working to enhance. So by adding a climate lens to that, we're able to enhance the mobility and the individual efficacy of older adults so that they're able to be involved and continue to advocate for themselves and be able to confidently prepare for the changes that the globe is going to endure. Particularly when I was working with that research, it was really surprising because there was a lot of research about the vulnerability of older adults, and a lot of the climate research was citing them as vulnerable, but there weren't many tailored mitigation efforts, especially considering the aging population. You're kind of wondering, like, how can we allow this population to continue to prosper and grow and work in this society. And so one thing that I looked at was I made an emergency preparedness tool essentially for older adults, specifically in Franklin County, and I sought to mitigate their risk in two different ways essentially. So half of the tool was information about the hazards that are going to be more frequent and more intense in Franklin County, like flooding and heat events. And then I provided information about their specific vulnerability as older adults for them to be able to feel like they really understand what is going to happen and how their world is going to change and how they as older adults can prepare for that. Gray-Green Alliance, the name is twofold. So gray referring to older adults and green referring to environment and that collaboration, but then also gray referring to OSU's Scarlet and Gray, and then green referring to OU's Green. And so it's a collaboration between Ohio State University's College of Social Work, which houses their Age Friendly Franklin County initiative, and then Ohio University and the green initiatives that we have going on here. And so essentially once we figured out that there was this really distinct connection and between these two disciplines and that there was a gap in the research, we wanted to help kind of blend those disciplines and get people talking about kind of the connections. So the Gray-Green Alliance seeks to facilitate that in Ohio and then eventually beyond Ohio. We'll be able to transform their infrastructure and transform transportation in a way that's accessible for older adults, but then also green and better for the environment, and will provide a collaborative approach in the sense that we're not doing these things individually and not talking to each other. Recently, we collaborated with the Aging in Our Community initiative, an Athens organization, and we held an event where Age Friendly Columbus was able to come and kind of talk through the process of becoming an age-friendly community. Why it's important to involve older adults in these discussions about climate and in aging. We call them community experts, and they really are experts. They're the people who know what's happening in the community. They're seeing the effects of climate change and extreme weather events, and they're seeing the effects of the community infrastructure not fulfilling their needs as older adults. It's not necessarily about older adults being victims of climate change or victims of inaccessibility in their community. They're actually agents of change and able to make themselves and their communities more resilient.